there's about 20% of our muscles in our bodies live in our feet. And we usually never think about muscles of our feet. And actually, before I got into muscle activation techniques and personal training, I was never told about the foot muscles or how to take care of them or what they're doing. And so there's a big problem because not only are we unaware of that there's even muscles that live there, we're also unaware of what are they doing there? What are they supposed to be doing there? What are they going to do for me if they were working better or if they were weak? What is that going to do for me? So this is such an important concept for us to be exploring because it is incredibly potent area for improving our health and function of our body, how our whole body's moving.
Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we're coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And today, we are talking about a serious exercise issue that we see throughout the fitness industry. And that is people aren't working out their feet. Now, you might be sitting there thinking working out my feet. What are you talking about? I go to the gym, I work out my heart for my cardio. I might work out my legs. I might work out my arms. I definitely work out my abs. But working out my feet, who needs to work out their feet? You need to work out your feet, and here's why.
That's right, Charlie. And actually, there's about 20% of our muscles in our bodies live in our feet. And we usually never think about muscles of our feet. And actually, before I got into muscle activation techniques and personal training, I was never told about the foot muscles or how to take care of them or what they're doing. And so there's a big problem because not only are we unaware of that there's even muscles that live there, we're also unaware of what are they doing there? What are they supposed to be doing there? What are they going to do for me if they were working better or if they were weak? What is that going to do for me? So this is such an important concept for us to be exploring because it is incredibly potent area for improving our health and function of our body, how our whole body's moving. I mean, I've had MAT sessions where just my feet have been worked on, and my whole body feels different. I don't know if you can relate to that, Charlie.
Absolutely, man. I say time and again, feet are one of the most impactful areas for people to get functioning better. I've seen people's hips improve, their knees improve, their back improve, their shoulders improve, their neck improves by getting their feet functioning better. So you're right on, Julie. It is huge.
Yeah. So feet are such a potent area again, but here's the problem is that because of these issues that I just brought up, we don't know there's really muscles living in our feet. We don't know that they're important. It's important for those to be functioning well. The problem becomes is that we don't treat the foot muscles like the other muscles of our body. I mean, let's just forget about feet for a second and think about this. If we never strengthened our core muscles, what do you think? What comes to your brain when you think about that? A lot of us think about low back pain and not functioning well and not feeling all over strong, altogether strong. You start losing strength and function, which leads to dysfunction in your life. And when we think about it that way, it's a lot easier to then relate it to the feet and say, hey, when I don't strengthen my foot muscles, what happens? Well, it leads to weakness, dysfunction, pain symptoms usually, because your body's going to tell you, hey, something's wrong here. These muscles aren't being taken care of. And really, it's the same as any other area of the body. We think about shoulders, hips, core, feet, neck, any of those areas. The muscles of our body, their job is to keep us mobile, strong, keep the joints healthy. And this goes the same for the feet. It's just we never really think about it. We always think, if I have an issue in my foot, I have a foot issue. We don't think about, why don't I work on strengthening the muscles of my feet? But if we had a back problem, we would think, I should probably work on some core stuff and strengthen my core. If I had a shoulder issue, I should probably do some, shoulder exercises. The same thing happens in the feet. We have to start thinking when the feet aren't functioning well, it's probably really tightly correlated to the muscles not working well as well.
Julia, it's such a fantastic point. And just going back to that question that you posed is like, well, what are the foot muscles doing there to begin with? They are there, like you were saying, to support the structure of the foot, to help the foot move better, to provide stability for the foot, and then to be, our feet are the first thing that hit the ground. They are our foundation for our body. So our muscles are there to be the foundation of our foot. And so if our foot muscles are not functioning well, if our foot muscles are weak, we have a weak foundation, not only for our foot, but for the entire rest of our body. So when we're thinking about my feet aren't functioning well, my feet are feeling dysfunctional, they are, feeling painful, they're hurting, they're not moving well, they feel really stiff. To your point, Julie, of, hey, we need to be thinking about the muscles. Look, if you get your muscles working better, especially the muscles of your feet, but your muscle throughout the body, today we're talking about feet, the muscles of your feet working better, your feet should start to move better. Your feet will become stronger, which will give a stronger foundation for your feet as well as for the rest of your body, which means the rest of your body doesn't have to be as stressed because it has a more solid foundation to move off of and to work off of. So foot strength, the muscles of the feet, the strength of those muscles is huge for your overall health, for your overall function, for your overall well-being, and your overall ability to continue to do all the things in life that you want to do for as long as you want to do them.
Yeah, Charlie, totally, because we see this. I mean, I wish all of our people, podcast people, Facebook people, Instagram people that follow us got to see what we get to see and our colleagues get to see all the time when we're working on, foot muscles, because it doesn't just affect the foot, just as you were alluding to, it just changes everything up the chain from that. And I don't know of anyone that's come in before and I said, hey, we're going to work on your foot muscles. And they say, oh, yeah, well, I've done something like this before. And I've never heard of anyone saying that to me before. And maybe other colleagues and maybe Charlie, you have. But it's so uncommon for even a foot specialist to say, hey, let's start working on the foot muscles and strengthen there. So it's just very, very unique. And I'm not sure why we've missed the mark on this in terms of it's not common practice. It's not commonly accepted that we should be strengthening the muscles of the feet. But, Charlie, you mentioned something. You said, when the muscles are working well, the feet move better. And actually, I'm not sure if everyone knows this, which is why I want to shoot back to this idea, but muscles are the reason why we move in the first place. So any joint, your neck, your shoulders, your core, your feet, the reason they move is because of muscles. A lot of times we think, oh, it's joints. Yes, we do need the joints to move, but the things that actually create the motion are the muscles. It'd be like saying oh, a door opens because of the hinges. Well, if no one actually actively opens the door, the hinges will never actually allow motion. So the hinges are like joints. Us imposing our pushing and pulling on a door is what creates the motion. We're the muscles. So muscles are what create motion. When your feet aren't moving well, when they're not allowed to be mobile, these muscles get weaker and weaker and weaker over time. And that's what leads to us not being able to move through our feet and leads to dysfunction in the feet. But I want you to take a second right now to also think about, okay, you're thinking, well, are my feet healthy? I don't know. Think about the shoes that you put on your feet every day. Are they kind of similar to being barefoot, or are they very different to being barefoot? And what I mean by this is so let's say you're an office professional and you're a woman and you wear heels to work. Is that pretty similar to being barefoot or not? I mean, if you think about it, your toes are probably pretty squished. You're also on a high heel maybe. Maybe it's just 1-inch heel. Maybe it's a 4-inch heel. Both are heels, by the way. Both are very dissimilar to being barefoot. Okay, so all day if you're wearing that shoe, you're asking your foot to not move in the ways that it should move. Right? Because we're in this shoe, this funky shoe. Even if it's beautiful and cute and the highest fashion, your foot is still not. So all day long, you're telling the muscles of your feet, don't do what you would do if you were barefoot, right? Or think about a stiff hiking shoe, right? You might even say, hey, I intentionally put my foot in here to protect my foot. But at the same time, that stiff hiking shoe is still a shoe that's very dissimilar to being barefoot, right? He's not allowing the motion that a foot should have, even if it's intentional, even if it's for a temporary help, right? It's like, well, I'm going to be walking all over rocks. I need this stiff shoe, which is great. But what the point that I'm trying to make here is that the more dissimilar your shoe is from allowing your foot to be like it is when it's barefoot, the more motion that you're limiting. And when you limit motion, you start losing muscle function. I mean, imagine this. If you were never allowed to lift your shoulder all the way up and all the way down, your shoulder would slowly start losing the ability to lift all the way up and lift all the way down. You know, the reason that a lot of personal trainers encourage you to weight train with full range of motion is because using full range of motion helps your body keep full range of motion. Just like when you put your foot in a restrictive shoe, a shoe that doesn't allow the foot to move similar to when it's barefoot, the more we're teaching your feet to not move the way they should move. And they're teaching our feet to not move in full range. And this is one of the biggest reasons, I think, that leads to a lot of the foot dysfunction is the shoes that we put our feet in every single day.
Yeah, shoes can be incredibly detrimental to somebody's development of their feet and how their feet are functioning when worn for the long term. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't all feet. This isn't all shoes across the board. But Julie, to your point, if you think about the way your foot is supposed to move when you're walking, there's supposed to be a fair amount of motion that happens between the arch flattening, the toes spreading, the arch coming up, the foot pointing, and the toes being able to bend and extend. All these different things have to happen throughout the foot at all different times while we're walking. Well, if you put on a stiff shoe or some kind of footwear that's not very mobile, all of a sudden, like you were saying, Julie, you've completely taken away the ability for the foot to create that motion. Well, what does this mean? Yes, over time, we may start to lose the ability to create that motion, which means over time, the joints of the feet may become incrementally less healthier and less healthier and less healthier, or more unhealthy as the dysfunction progresses. This also means that in order to compensate around a foot that's not able to move as well, other areas of the body are going to have to start to move more, which means other areas of the body may start to get stressed out. So when we're looking at, shoe wear and the effect that it can have on feet, it is widespread. And I know we did an entire podcast, the beginning of 2019 about this. I think it's like how stiff and supportive shoes are affecting more than your feet or are affecting your feet, something of that nature. We'll link to it in the show notes below. But definitely check that podcast out for like a really in-depth explanation of how the shoes you wear affect not just your feet, like the health and function of your feet, but throughout your entire body as well. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with the shoes that you're wearing, because like you're saying, Julie, hey, shoes are not just a fashion item. Shoes are not just something you put on your feet to protect them from the elements. Shoes have a dramatic influence over how your feet function, which then has an influence over how the rest of your body functions. And if you're not taking that into consideration, well, over time, you risk just having more and more dysfunction being created just simply because of the shoes that you're wearing. And so just being mindful of that and understanding that when your feet are functioning well, the more that you can get to, I'm going to say like going towards not necessarily like a barefoot shoe or a minimalist shoe, but using shoes that maybe have less support to them will force your feet to work in the manner that they're designed to work. And over time, this can actually be a really good thing, not only for your feet, but for the rest of your body.
Mm-hmm. And please, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, I wear really supportive shoes, I think tomorrow I'll go buy the flat.
Don't do that.
Flat minimalist shoes, because Julie and Charlie said, just as a disclaimer, which, we should probably have a full discussion about this at some other time. But if you are always in supportive shoes, your feet will be very deconditioned. Right. So you have to gradually go into it. Just like if you were like, hey, my New Year's resolution is to work out, and the first day you go do a CrossFit class, you'd probably feel really bad after you did that, even if it was good for you.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to gradually our clients, at least, we gradually get them into a better shoe that's more appropriate for their muscle function as they're getting stronger. So please be mindful of that. We're not suggesting that you should go run out and get minimalist shoes and flat shoes, but we are just talking about this concept of, more support means your muscles are doing less support means your muscles and feet are doing more.
Yeah, just for an example, like I remember when I started transitioning to more minimalist shoes, I could really only wear them for an hour at a time. Like I wear them for an hour, and that's about all my feet and my entire body could tolerate for that day. And then as my feet started getting stronger, started functioning better, then I could wear them for longer and longer. So yeah, it's not something where you just kind of dive in, because there could be potential negative ramifications of that as well.
All right, so if you're someone that's currently struggling with foot issues, probably what has been suggested to you or what you found from Dr. Google is that you should get some stiff shoes, some pronator shoes, some orthotics, some ankle braces or arch supports, all these things, which we don't want to suggest that these are bad, but we all do also know that this kind of compensates for an issue and doesn't ever actually strengthen the reason that your feet are weak, which is weak muscles. So our suggestion, which is it's a long-term approach. It's also a way to manage your feet rather than having like a temporary type fix via orthotics or a stiff shoe or a suggestive shoe, is you got to start strengthening your feet, hands down, right? If you have a weak shoulder, strengthen your shoulder, get stronger. If you got weak hips, strengthen your hips. If you got weak feet, strengthen your feet. They get stronger. And then the function of the muscles will improve. The muscles will start supporting your foot better. The muscles will start helping your joints of your feet move better, your toes better, your arch support better. All the things that muscles are supposed to do, these will start improving in your feet.
Yeah, the analogy that I like to use with this is like, look, if you have a broken arm, putting a cast on that arm is a really good thing. But you don't want to keep the cast on your arm forever, because then your arm will atrophy and it'll get weak, and the point of the cast will no longer be needed, right? And so the same kind of goes with your feet. Is like, if you actually have a foot issue going on, there may be a period of time where you need to utilize orthotics, or you need to utilize stiff and supportive shoes or braces. But the issue is not using those for the short term. The issue is using them for the long term, because at some point, just like you would get the cast off of your arm, you want to be able to graduate out of the orthotics or out of the stiff and supportive shoes or out of the braces. And you do that by getting your feet stronger, by getting the muscles of your feet functioning better.
So Charlie and I have put together 6 different exercises that we're going to explain to you. And I know that sometimes when you listen about exercises, they can be kind of hard to understand. So we actually did just release a video. So if you need a demo of these, please check out the 2-Minute Tuesdays that we released on our Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at Muscle Activation Schaumburg. And it would have been released on December 3rd, Tuesday, December 3rd. You can also find it on our blog, which would be matschaumburg.com, and click on the blog tab. Anyways, so let's get started. The first 2 exercises, these are all kind of like opposite exercises, right? Like crunches and back extension. So we have calf raises and what I'm going to call toe raises or foot raises. Okay, so the first one is a calf raise, right? So you've probably seen this one in the gym before. Basically what you do is you squeeze the back of your lower leg, which is your calf muscle, and you lift your heel off the ground while leaving the ball of your foot on the ground and your toes on the ground. So if you are really not used to this, I recommend that you do it seated, just in a chair, lifting your heels up off the ground. And if you are a little more advanced, you can certainly stand up and do this. I do recommend that you hold on to something so that you're not working on your balance at the same time. You're just working on your strength. The other exercise would be the direct opposite of this. So you can start seated, and basically what you would do is you would lift your whole foot up off the ground, leaving your heel on the ground. So the heel would be the only part of your foot that's left on the ground. This will stimulate the front of your lower leg, and you will feel it right on like your shin bone.
The next 2 exercises are technically called like inversion and eversion, but really what we want you to think about is like making an arch and then flattening your arch. And I know it's kind of weird doing exercises to think about promoting a flat arch, but your feet do need to flatten. They absolutely must flatten. In fact, we put a blog post all about this that we'll link in the show notes below. You can also find it on our blog on our website, matschaumburg.com. It's called Flat Feet, Why Your Feet Must Flatten. So definitely check that out for a more thorough explanation. But for the exercises, you can be seated for this. And for the arch forming ones, if you're seated with your feet flat on the ground, think about taking the inside arch of your foot and trying to pull that up towards the inside part of your knee. And you might feel some muscles like under and around your calf muscles kind of squeezing for this. And that's exactly what you want to feel. Also, like on the bottom of your foot, you should feel that squeezing a little bit. And then kind of going the other way where you're picking up the outside part of your foot and trying to flatten the arch and squeezing through the outside part of your lower leg for this. Again, just kind of practicing this motion, feeling those muscles squeeze as you go each direction. These are really powerful ones because not only do your feet need to be able to form arches, your feet must also be able to flatten their arches. And so practicing both of these motions can really help with each of those.
Awesome. And then the last two exercises will be just all about your toes. Do not undermine the power of your toes. So often I've worked on clients and as soon as we get to their toes, everything else in their foot starts feeling better. So it's very interesting. Anyways, these last two will be toe curls and toe extensions. So the way you do it is you stay seated, put your foot on the ground, and then first curl your toes underneath your foot, trying not to lift your foot, although your foot will lift, but you're trying to pull the toes almost under your foot to meet your heel. And then the other one is you'd start with your feet flat and then lift your toes up off the floor, but leaving the rest of your foot on the floor. And this will work your toe extensors.
Yeah, no, this last one is kind of interesting because if you think about like your hand like spreading, all right, your toes should be able to have the ability to kind of spread in a similar manner that your fingers do, okay? And in fact, yesterday I was working with a client and he was saying, every time we work on my feet, it feels like my toes are more spread apart. And that's because his muscles are functioning better. So he's able to actually get that spread apart of his toes and actively achieve that position. And so that's not an uncommon thing, that when your foot muscles start functioning better, you can actually feel your toes spread apart. You can feel your toes come together more and your feet and your toes just start to move better. So that's kind of a cool feeling when you start to feel your toes moving more and you're able to grip the ground a little bit more as you're walking, as you're standing, and as you're doing things throughout your daily life.
So definitely try out these strengthening exercises. One thing is for sure, when areas of your body are stronger and move better, they feel better and function better, which is really the end goal here, right? Because as always, Charlie and I are always talking about how exercise is health. Strengthening exercises are what will allow you to exercise for life, which means exercising to help you improve the quality of your life. So try out these exercises. We'd love to hear feedback from you if you do, and let us know how they go.
Definitely. And in addition to these exercises, you can always see a muscle activation technique specialist to help improve the function of the muscles of your feet. Go to muscleactivation.com, click on the Find a Specialist tab to find a certified practitioner in your area. And if you happen to have an RX hand and foot specialist in your area, definitely give them a shout, or an RX total body specialist, because they can do some really cool things with the muscles of your feet. Now, we have something coming up in 2020 that we need to tell you about. It is a one-day event that you are not going to want to miss. Julie, you want to tell them about this event?
Yes. So we are bringing the Schaumburg Health Summit back in 2020. It will be April 4th, 2020, and it will run from 9 to 1. Buy your tickets at schaumburghealthsummit.com. Also, right now until January 1st, 2020, we are accepting applications for speakers. You can find the full directions, all the info that you need on our website, schaumburghealthsummit.com. Go over to the menu and click on Apply to Speak. Also, we are currently accepting sponsors for this event. So maybe you are a local health company that would like to promote your business at our event and share what you do to help people with their health with the audience. We look for people that are wanting to do fun activities, cool giveaways, cool coupons. So definitely check it out if you're wanting to sponsor. Also at our website, schaumburghealthsummit.com, and go to the menu tab and go to Apply to Sponsor. So we would love to see you there. Apply to Speak if you're interested. Get your tickets if you're interested. It's going to be a great event. We had such a great turnout. And if anything, check out the SchaumburgHealthSummit.com website just to learn more information. Check out the promo video, live footage from last year. You can get a really great feel for what's going down. It will be kind of like a TED Talk type of event, but all health ideas and health aspects. So all of our attendees and sponsors and speakers really walked away from it last year with a better knowledge of, what is out there in the health field now.
So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know whose feet are not functioning well? They're having foot issues, or they feel like their feet are weak or unstable. Share this episode with them so they can learn about the importance of strengthening their feet, the importance of the muscles of their feet, and how to go about strengthening their feet. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find us who are looking for podcasts on exercise, who are looking for podcasts on health. It helps us show up higher in those search results so we can continue to spread this message. So if you found value in this podcast today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.